hay cars, this would have been a big deal. All right, there's another thing. You see this? See how this is all floppity? This is the slip clutch. So, I gotta remember how to do this again. I know there's a knack to it. So this piece had gotten lodged up in here, and you can actually see how it kind of has a tendency to get in there. This actually might be slightly bent off a little bit. So I just had to pry him away so that he could contact this piece. So now that locked this into place, and look. All right, so I'm going to go back to baling and working on my strings to make sure they are knotting.
Driving around the field like this, you can see exactly how thin the hay actually is. It's so thin that the baler takes a long time just to collect enough to make one bale. You guys have told me before that I should double rake my rows. I'm still trying to get a feel for how that works with both making new hay patterns and using this rake. And sometimes it's just hard for me to tell exactly how thin it is until it's fully dry. I haven't had any issue making bales, it just takes longer.
my goodness. It's a lot bouncier in the back end. Oh my goodness. Cherry bomb.
Oh, baby.
Go, cherry bomb, go. Up the hill.
Oh, baby.
You got it, girl. You got it.
Yeah, we're only at 2,000 RPM.
She's barely breaking a sweat.
Barely working.
They're falling at a rapid rate, apparently. This was just standing. Like, literally, I think I walked in here and it was still standing here. Because I don't recall bales on the ground. Thanks for the gloves, Josh. So Erik has one more stack to go and that will be it for first cutting. Last year first cutting we had this whole area stacked all the way out to that post and all the way out to this post. It was just stacked and then we stacked it even taller. So this is as high as the grapple can go up there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stacks tall with, I don't know, 4 to 6 inch pallet underneath. And that's about as high as he can get with the grapple on the 574, which is really a lot better than what he was expecting. The other thing with this system is that they advertise you can do hundreds of bales in a day. Well, how many of you guys want to do hundreds of bales in a day? Don't you want to do like thousands of bales in a day? I don't know. That kind of seems to me like the more logical approach. If you're going to be baling fields, you want to be able to tick it off. And that's a wrap.
All right, so I know many of you are wondering exactly how our hay nutrition came out. I did go through and sample each of the 3 fields, the main 3 fields that we cut, to get a general idea of where the protein is at and where the sugar is at. I know we've had some discussion as far as cutting morning or cutting evening, and this will kind of give you a little bit better picture of what we're looking at. Now, to be fair, it wasn't the best test. I did a normal hay test where you go down different windrows, grabbing handfuls and stuffing it in the bag. Instead, what I should have done is strictly grabbed orchard grass samples, so that way I can test orchard grass to orchard grass and not just field to field. Regardless, here we go. We're going to start with our front pasture. That was the first field that we baled up front. That's also the first field that we cut. If you remember, we cut this field at approximately 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening. All of our fields dried extra quickly. So if we look at our protein, the protein's a little bit lower than I'd like to see. It's at 9.9%. Now these fields were cut definitely on time. They were cut the end of May. That's when we really shoot to cut. And I'm not sure why the protein's low. It could be just because of the environmental conditions. Now, if we go over to our simple sugars, the ESC, ethanol soluble carbohydrates, we see that our sugars are at 7.6%. That is the lowest, guys. That is the lowest I've ever had. Lower than even second cutting. And this again was cut between 6 and 7 p.m. Now, if we go down, something worth noting is the iron level on this field is at 990 parts per million, or ppm. I'm not exactly sure why. This is the first time I've ever sampled this field, so we will check it on second cut and see what this says for iron, because you really don't want to see iron that high in your hay. And unfortunately, I can't really control that. All right, so now we're going to go over to our 2-acre orchard grass field, which was the next field we cut. We cut that field right after cutting this first field. So this one was definitely cut between about 7 o'clock p.m., I would say. If we look at our protein on this field, it's at 11.6%. That's higher than 9.9% of the previous field, but this field also has a lot more orchard grass. I mean, it was planted as orchard grass. If we go down and look at the sugars on this field, we see it's at 9.4%. Now this field did have some clover in it, so it's very possible I might have grabbed a handful of clover when I grabbed out of the windrow. Now, like I said, for second cutting, we are only going to test the orchard grass, nothing else. But still, 9.4% is well within the margin of 11%. And we go down, we look at our iron. Once again, our iron is at 886. Again, very, very high. Lastly, we have our 10-acre orchard grass planted field. And we look over at our protein, that's at 10.6%. Again, that's lower than I'd like, but I can't control that a whole lot. And we go over to our ESC, simple sugars, 10.3%. Now you might be wondering why this one is higher than the other 2 fields. Well, the simple answer is that area of the field that I sampled had actually been cut the next morning. There had been a frost. A lot of times frost can raise the sugar in your grass, first of all. And secondly, the grass had a little bit of time to absorb some sun rays and make some sugar before it finally dried off. We go down and look at our iron. Oh, looky there, 122 parts per million. That's exactly what we're looking for. So, just different things worth noting when you go over your nutritional analysis report. So, I'm going to be excited to see what second cutting comes out to be and how those numbers change. Like I said, second cutting is just going to be sampling the orchard grass. And now with papers in hand, I call my horse customers and they come to get the hay. And it gets a little scary with the amount of hay going out the door.